In our daily lives, we may have witnessed scenes of a slaughterhouse where people take offal and chop pig bones to sell at the market, or seen people gutting, plucking, and cooking chickens. However, no one could imagine such brutal actions happening on human bodies. Today I will tell you about a horrifying case that haunted many, the story of cannibals in the Shenzi region. Hello, welcome to Chinese Crimes, a channel specializing in real-life cases in China. On a dark night in 2004, while the Shenzi Provincial Police Force was working tirelessly, a couple suddenly appeared, their faces filled with fear. They rushed into the police station, sweat still dripping from their foreheads. The police knew something terrible had happened to them. One of them recounted witnessing a heinous murder. The police immediately took them to the scene to investigate. However, upon arrival, the woman began to panic, her body trembling, her face pale. It seemed the incident had left her extremely distressed. The girl, named Chow Mei-en, 25 years old, owned a small shoe store in a shopping center in the city. The police tried to ask her what had happened, but to no avail, as she was still not completely calm. However, after 30 minutes, when reassured by her boyfriend, she began to utter words that made everyone tremble with fear. "I was forced to kill someone. If not, they would have killed me immediately. And not just one person, but many. They eat human flesh. It's horrifying." With a horrified expression, she recounted that after killing a woman, they used a knife to repeatedly stab the body until it was mangled. Then bit and ate the organs in front of her. These horrifying words left the police shocked, unsure whether to believe or doubt. Truly, no one could imagine such barbaric scenes. Skeptical, the police thought the girl might have serious psychological issues. However, to prove her story true, she pointed out the hideout of these brutal perpetrators, and from there, the terrifying truth gradually unfolded. According to Mei-an, a few hours ago at the shopping center, a woman named Ling approached her, expressing interest in buying Mei-an's shoe store after seeing the transfer notice. Ling pretended to negotiate the price with Mei-an. After reaching an agreement, Ling claimed she didn't have enough money and suggested Mei-an follow her home to get paid. Despite some doubts, Mei-an followed Ling to the specified location, but was suddenly attacked and captured by two other individuals. Perhaps Ling chose Mei-an as the target because she happened to see Mei-an holding a savings book and thought there was a large sum of money inside, making Mei-an a perfect target for the attackers. Subsequently, the kidnappers used a long rope to tie her tightly to the bed and forced her to call a wealthy woman named Li, whom she had previously met. This call was to inform Li that Mei-an had agreed to sell Li's favorite pair of shoes at a very cheap price. Immediately after, Li brought the money and came to the address Mei-an provided, which was also where she was captured. As Li entered the door, the murderer used an iron rod to hit her, causing her to fall to the ground bleeding. Some of them checked and took 50,000 yuan from Li, then planned to kill them both to cover their tracks. However, to save herself, Mei-an announced that she had kept 20,000 yuan at the store. Before returning to the store to retrieve that money, she was forced to kill Li. With no other choice, Mei-an closed her eyes and carried out the insane request of the criminals. She used their knife and stabbed Li directly, causing her to die on the spot. They intended to kill Mei-an to silence her, but quick-wittedly, she mentioned she still had 20,000 yuan at the store. Luckily, Mei-an seized the opportunity to escape from the criminals and immediately went to her boyfriend to report the incident. Mei-an, still shaken and numb from the tragedies she had endured from the realm of death, appeared distressed and vacant, with a face full of fear and a trembling voice. Following Mei-an's directions, the police swiftly mobilized forces to surround the hideout of the criminals. However, as the police were about to knock on the door, there was suddenly a strange noise inside. Sensing something amiss, the police broke down the door and rushed in, catching a subject who was about to jump out of the window, while the other two managed to escape. Upon conducting a crime scene investigation, the police were horrified to find a gruesome sight. It turned out that before leaving, the perpetrators had mutilated the body of Ms. Lee, then dissolved it with chemical solvents before stuffing it into a black bag and dumping it into a nearby sewer. They directly used their hands to gut the heart, liver, and other organs, then cooked them along with the fatty tissue. In fact, Mayan witnessed the entire process. Although terrified, she didn't scream because she might be the next one to be dismembered and thrown into that boiling pot. At this thought, she couldn't bear it anymore. Inside the kitchen was a space drenched in fresh blood. Blood soaked the floor. Most likely, the victims were all executed here. Bloodstains on the walls indicated that the murderer had used a sharp weapon to chop the victims, causing blood to spatter onto the walls and flow throughout the house. Next to the boiling pot of human flesh, the police found a large amount of untreated human organs. Perhaps the culprit deliberately left the victims' bodies intact under the heat of the fire. The fat would gradually melt, resulting in a large amount of oil. This cooking oil was likely to have been taken away by them to be consumed in some local markets. Everyone present at the scene was horrified. Even the seasoned police officers who had been on duty for decades and experienced numerous shocking cases never believed such a terrifying story of cannibalism could happen. After collecting all the details at the scene, the police handcuffed the suspects and escorted them to the station for further investigation. During the interrogation, suspect Li Xuanlong, a professional bar hostess, confessed that she was an accomplice of her two cousins, Shen Jingzhan, 28 years old, and Shen Jingbing, 20 years old, who had escaped from the scene. Under pressure from the police, Li Xuanlong admitted that she and her accomplices had committed dozens of brutal murders in Shanxi province. Over the past 6 months, she had seduced and deceived many prostitutes, then robbed and murdered them before disposing of their bodies. One of the 3 killers was caught, however. The police were struggling to find the remaining 2 accomplices. Therefore, a special task force was formed to expedite the investigation and track down the suspects. The police called for the cooperation of the entire population nationwide and promised a hefty reward for anyone providing information about the 2 murderers. After successfully escaping from the scene, the Shen brothers arrived at Shijiayu by car and rented a house under a false name with the stolen money from Li Xuanlong. However, due to laziness, alcoholism, and the police pursuit, the 2 murderers limited their outings. After spending all of the stolen money, they returned to their killing and robbery activities in the rented area where they resided. Residents noticed that both of them often left the house at night, and the amount of water consumed exceeded the normal level of an ordinary family. The drainage pipes here were often clogged and needed regular cleaning. During the process of unclogging and cleaning the sewer, the management unit discovered a large amount of meat of unknown origin. One day, a man accidentally found a wanted article about the 2 murderers on the internet, and the wanted person looked very similar to the Shen brothers. Immediately, this man reported to the local police. After many secret investigations and verifications, the police determined that they were the dangerous criminals they were looking for. In the early morning of August 31, 2004, the Special Task Force conducted a fierce battle to apprehend the 2 murderers. In the pursuit, these 2 attempted to resist and use weapons to defend themselves. However, in the end, the police successfully subdued and arrested both suspects. At the crime scene, there was another woman named Du, suspected to be an accomplice, along with a female victim in a dismembered state. All 3 criminals were taken in for questioning. Through investigation, the 2 brothers, Jinzhan and Jingbing, were found to be from Hakda District, Hanam Province. Their father was a very authoritarian and dictatorial village chief. Following in the dark footsteps of their father, Jinzhang became a playboy and a vagabond. He dropped out of high school before graduating and started living a socialite life. He frequently caused trouble on the streets and specialized in bullying those weaker than himself. By 1994, due to financial difficulties, Jinzhan recruited several other gangsters to carry out thefts together. However, their last robbery attempt failed, and Jinjiang and his gang were caught and imprisoned. Thanks to good rehabilitation during his sentence, Jinjiang was released after a year. However, he was still restricted by the 1995 legal system. Despite knowing the consequences of his actions, Jinjiang continued to steal. This time he stole a gold necklace and 2 designer cell phones. Caught again during probation, Jinjiang received a stricter punishment. After his release, he persuaded his younger brother to join him in robbery activities, and thus a criminal gang of 2 was formed in 1999. After successfully completing their first robbery, both fled to a friend's house in Hanam. While they were drinking together, the friend recounted how his sister had been deceived and raped to death by a man named So Kan. Jinjiang, filled with rage, decided to avenge the girl by planning to lure So Kan out of his house and kill him with a knife, then dismember and dispose of his body with chemicals. After committing the crime, both fled to Lanzhou and started a car business. However, they both failed. While living there, they noticed a bar hostess in 2003. The 2 brothers deceived a girl named Ryu from a nearby bar to their rental house with the intention of soliciting her for sex. After threatening and beating her, they obtained Ryu's bank card with a total of 32,000 yuan. Then the 2 brothers killed Ryu, dismembered her, and fled to Inner Mongolia. After a few months hiding there, they spent all the money and resumed kidnapping and killing. In January 2003, they lured a woman named Li Xuanlong into their house. When the 2 brothers were about to kill Ling, she was frightened and begged for mercy, promising to help them lure prostitutes with money. Finally, after several negotiations, they agreed to spare Lung. However, to show her loyalty, Li Xuanlong was asked to kill someone. So she called a waitress and promised to introduce her to a job, but then she killed the victim. After multiple murders, Li Xuanlong became a cold-blooded and ruthless demon. The next victim was a girl named Wang. She tortured Wang to get her bank card password, but Wang refused to disclose it. The 3 of them tied her up and went to sleep. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Wang escaped from the ropes and jumped out of the window. However, she fell and hit her head upon landing, becoming unconscious. When the 2 brothers heard the noise, they hurriedly carried the victim back into the house and killed her. Then they fled to Taiwan. While all 3 were eating together, Jinjiang suddenly asked, "I wonder what human liver tastes like." Li Xuanlong responded by cutting a victim's liver and cooking it for all 3 to eat. Strangely, all 3 were captivated by the taste. Because of these murders and the confessions of all 3, the case came to a close. On September 1, 2005, the 2 brothers, Xin Jinjiang and Xin Jingbing, along with their accomplice, Li Xuanlong, were sentenced to death for kidnapping, murder, and robbery. The total sentence was death. The woman named Du and the other accomplices received a 20-year prison sentence. Zhuao Meian participated in a murder, but due to her confession, she was sentenced to 3 years in prison. The cannibalistic story may seem like something that only happens in the animal kingdom or in primitive societies. However, it happened in China. Animals fight for food, territory, or mates. But cannibalism in civilized society is a big question mark. Ultimately, blood may be strong, but human hearts are even stronger. This is an extremely horrifying case, but only because of the terrifying details, but also because of the sinister human nature. More than a decade has passed, but the memory of the human flesh in the sewer still sends shivers down people's spines. All crimes will have to be paid for, and these 3 villains have received the harshest punishment. But compared to what they did, it's still too lenient.
Leaving only 107 bloodstains throughout the bathroom, a single lady suddenly vanishes for 22 years. If you're a regular consumer of films, you're likely familiar with the portrayal of wealthy and successful single women in their 30s and 40s. These depictions have undoubtedly played a role in shaping the mindset of modern women today. with the motto, "Better to cry in a Maybach than laugh in a rickshaw." Many women nowadays prioritize education, financial accumulation, and self-care over early marriage. However, after examining the case below, one might wonder if these women would reconsider their thoughts on giving up the comfortable and free single life, which, nevertheless, harbors countless hidden dangers. Zhang Xinghua, 40 years old, was a single woman leading a desirable and healthy lifestyle in Taiwan. After completing her master's program in England, she returned to Taiwan and settled in the center of Taipei. She rented a house in Dian District and started teaching English classes, gradually earning a considerable amount of money and becoming proficient in financial management and investment. It was said that she had saved millions of dollars. Not only financially independent, but she also possessed remarkable beauty. Zhang Xinghua was friendly and outgoing. With a passion for dancing, she befriended many middle-aged singles like herself. Being both beautiful and talented, it was natural that many people followed her to court her. Unfortunately, she was in a romantic relationship with a man her own age. On the afternoon of June 14, 2001, Zhang Xinghua's boyfriend, after hours of trying to contact her in vain, couldn't find his girlfriend. A sense of worry gradually crept into his heart. In fact, not only Zhang Xinghua's boyfriend, but even her students and relatives couldn't reach her that day. Zhang Xinghua had a very disciplined lifestyle, always informing her family before leaving the house. Suddenly not saying anything and disappearing like that was very unusual. Never happened before. The next day, Zhang Xinghua's boyfriend, feeling anxious, went to Zhang Xinghua's house to investigate the situation. Her shoes were still placed on the shelf outside the door, but no matter how many times he rang the doorbell, no one answered. Therefore, he called a locksmith. But because the lock was too complicated, it couldn't be opened immediately. Worried that his girlfriend might be in danger when alone at home, her boyfriend quickly called the fire department for assistance. Firefighters used a ladder to climb through the window, and Zhang Xinghua's family quickly arrived at the scene. Everyone entered Zhang Xinghua's rented house, but there was nothing special. The living room was tidied up as usual, with no suspicious signs. In the bedroom, there were a few sets of her clothes on the bed, but nothing too unusual. Her mobile phone and purse, which she usually took with her whenever going out, were also left in the room. Normally, Zhang Xinghua prioritized security for herself, to the point that if she was out for more than 2 days, she would ask her neighbors to collect advertising leaflets or newspapers in the mailbox to prevent criminals from noticing. However, neighbors said Zhang Xinghua didn't mention anything about this. Without her phone, without her bag, her shoes were still intact inside the house. So why was Zhang Xinghua nowhere to be found? Zhang Xinghua's family realized something was wrong and immediately called the police. The police quickly arrived at the scene to conduct an investigation. First, they checked the lock, but found no signs of forced entry from the outside. The front window was intact, so the possibility of a burglary could be ruled out. However, something caught the attention of the police. The living room floor was unusually clean. As investigators prepared to enter the bathroom to check, they heard a noise from the balcony and opened the door. It turned out to be a husky dog owned by Zhang Xinghua. Her boyfriend said that this dog and she were always inseparable, even when Zhang Xinghua went out. Upon being freed, the husky dog quickly rushed into the bathroom and barked. No one understood what was happening, so they all ignored it. However, when no one was paying attention, it ran back into the living room, bit the pants of an investigator, and pulled them into the bathroom. At 4:20 a.m., upon closer inspection, the investigators noticed something unusual. The bathroom was missing some essential items and had some unnecessary ones. First, all the toiletries were in the bathroom, except for the most important one, the bottle of shower gel. The shower curtain used to cover the bathtub was also missing. Only a steel rod was left leaning against the wall. Additionally, according to Zhang Xinghua's boyfriend, the bathroom was also missing 2 large towels, and these were not found in the trash can in the living room or kitchen. Since it was Sunday and Taipei City didn't collect trash, where did these items go if they weren't in the house? Oddly enough, while the bathroom was missing items, it had a rather strange item. That was an electric fan that was originally placed in the bedroom. How could Zhang Xinghua think of bringing this electric item into a high-humidity room like the bathroom? Therefore, the presence of the electric fan in the bathroom made investigators suspicious, and they decided to conduct a detailed investigation of this immaculate room. First, they found some small mold stains on the outside edge of the hazelnut-colored bathtub, resembling mold marks. Logically, if Zhang Xinghua cared about cleanliness, how could she have left these stains exist while the floor was so clean? Therefore, forensic staff conducted blood tests on these strange stains, and sure enough, they were cleaned blood stains. The police quickly searched the bathroom and carefully collected evidence using luminol and UV light. As the light shone in, the bloodstains in the bathroom slowly became visible, appearing everywhere, sending shivers down one's spine. After collecting them, the police concluded that there were a total of 107 bloodstains in an area of less than 7 square meters in the bathroom. The sink was similarly stained. On the walls, there were also fan-shaped bloodstains that had been wiped with a towel. The perpetrator thought he could clean the bloodstains using this method to conceal them, but in reality, everything was clear. Moreover, the police collected a right footprint that did not belong to Zhang Xinghua at the bathroom door. After comparing the DNA with Zhang Xinghua's parents and the remaining bloodstains, the police determined that the blood belonged to Zhang Xinghua. Although her body was not found, losing such a large amount of blood also meant that the likelihood of Zhang Xinghua being alive was extremely low. The police assumed that the missing shower curtain, towels, and other items were used to wrap the body and might have been bloodstained, so they were discarded. The electric fan might have been used to dry the bathroom if Zhang Xinghua was indeed killed. So, who killed Zhang Xinghua? The police decided to start the investigation with her acquaintances. We know that Zhang Xinghua was not only beautiful, but also wealthy. The possibility of murder for love or money could not be ruled out. After careful scrutiny, most of the valuable items in the house were missing, but there was still a check, a few bank cards, and credit cards. Of course, her boyfriend was also under the police's investigation, but nothing suspicious was found. Then, the police shifted their focus to her close friends, and after interrogating each one, they discovered a surprising suspect. Among Zhang Xinghua's 12 close friends, only one man named Li Jingwei did not participate in the interrogation. He was a 43-year-old businessman working in the leather production industry on the mainland and had been divorced 3 times. 2 years ago, he met Zhang Xinghua through a mutual friend. Li Jingwei also expressed his intention to bring Zhang Xinghua back to the mainland for investment in business development. When the police contacted him, he cooperated and agreed to come to the police station for questioning. However, on the day of the interrogation, the police didn't find a trace of him. After checking, they found Li Jingwei had boarded a flight back to the mainland to flee. The police then conducted a deeper investigation and found that his company had undergone serious downturns in recent years and owed millions of dollars. He had tried to raise capital from everywhere but failed. At 6 a.m. on June 14th, Li Jingwei contacted Zhang Xinghua several times by phone, and he was also the last person to contact Zhang Xinghua. The police found that on June 14th, Li Jingwei's mobile phone was still in Dai'an District, Taipei City, for a long time. This coincidentally was where Zhang Xinghua lived. However, from that evening until the next morning, the location of his mobile phone appeared in Jinshan District, a remote northern coastal area. Why did he go there? Of course, no one would go to such a remote seaside area for tourism, except to dispose of a body. Not only that, one of Zhang Xinghua's credit cards had transactions for cash withdrawals from ATMs after she went missing. Moreover, someone had used her credit card and bank card to withdraw cash at the bank. Surveillance footage recorded the image of a woman holding Zhang Xinghua's card. After the investigation, Li Jingwei himself was identified as the person who stole the credit card and bank card, and the unknown woman turned out to be Li Jingwei's sister named Li Kuipian. There was no more doubt. He was indeed the prime suspect in Zhang Xinghua's disappearance. Next, the police just needed to wait for Li Jingwei to return to Taiwan for investigation and to find Zhang Xinghua's body to charge him. But would it be that simple? If Li Jingwei transported the body from Zhang Xinghua's house to the northern coast for such a long distance, surely there must have been means of transportation. In fact, he only had a truck. After conducting an examination, the police discovered that Li Jingwei's truck had not been used for a long time and could not have been used to transport the body. During the investigation, the police realized that Li Jingwei had not rented any vehicles recently. In fact, they suspected that Li Kuipian was an accomplice with her brother. Therefore, she was summoned for questioning. However, Li Kuipian suddenly exclaimed that she is innocent and knew nothing about the relationship between her brother and Zhang Qingha. She only knew that her brother owed money to this woman and had to use the cards to repay the debt. But that was not enough to stop the police from suspecting her statement. The police began to inquire about the car she was using, and at this point, there was a crucial clue. She stated that Li Jingwei had borrowed her car for a few days but had returned it before going back to the mainland. Coincidentally, when driving to the police station, she was also using this car. Thinking that Li Jingwei's younger sister was unaware of what her boyfriend was doing, the police shifted their attention to the other car. Unexpectedly, this turned out to be a wise decision. The police quickly found bloodstains behind the carpet of the driver's seat and the back seat, even under the carpet in the trunk of the car. It was undoubtedly related to Zhang Qingha's disappearance. Clearly, Li Jingwei became the prime suspect. However, at this point, he was still on the mainland. How could the police lure him back to Taiwan? At this point, the police used a trick. They asked Li Kuipian to call her brother and tell him that the police had found no evidence. So they had let her go home, effectively closing the case. Indeed, it was effective. However, for a cunning fox like Li Jingwei, it wasn't until 3 months later that he and his lawyer returned to the police station to explain the situation. Li Jingwei admitted that he had met Zhang Xinghua through a friend after his divorce, but only shortly before the incident occurred. After contacting each other frequently, Li Jingwei learned that Zhang Xinghua had a boyfriend. The reason he kept Zhang Xinghua's bank card and credit card was that he was opening a company on the mainland, and Zhang Xinghua wanted to invest, so she lent them to Li Jingwei for use. When asked why he didn't return them on time, Li Jingwei couldn't provide a reasonable explanation. When asked about his visit to Jingshan on the morning of June 15th, Li Jingwei said that he went to visit a friend. The police indeed found that such a person really lived in Jingshan. However, this friend later revealed that he and Li Jingwei had not been in contact for a long time and were not close enough for him to visit at any time. On March 15th, Li Jingwei also had his own explanation. He said that on the day, he just impulsively decided to visit. But when he arrived, he felt it was too late and was worried about disturbing his friend's rest, so he didn't ring the doorbell. Do you remember the footprint at the crime scene? After checking, the police confirmed that it belonged to Li Jingwei. Surprisingly, he also had his own explanation for this. Li Jingwei admitted that he went to Zhang Xinghua's house at the time of the incident, but he was not the one who killed her. At that time, he found Zhang Xingwei had committed suicide long ago, so he crouched down to check, leaving behind that footprint. As for the bloodstains in the car trunk, he said he knew nothing about it. Despite having enough evidence, without finding the body, Li Jingwei could argue whatever he wanted. And furthermore, there was no evidence that Zhang Xinghua had died. The police tried everything, but couldn't find her body. In June 2003, when Zhang Xinghua's body had not been found yet, the court ruled that Li Jingwei was guilty of intentional homicide and sentenced him. When everything seemed to be resolved, Li Jingwei remained the same, coming up with all sorts of absurd arguments. But of course, with all the solid evidence provided by the forensic experts, he couldn't defend anything. In the end, he could only helplessly shout and curse at the judge in court, and even that couldn't change the death sentence that would be carried out shortly afterward. After more than 20 years, despite the verdict, Li Jingwei has never confessed or revealed Zhang Xinghua's whereabouts. But according to the hypothesis, she may no longer exist in this world. It's just sad that even in death, Zhang Xinghua could not be properly laid to rest. What do you think about Li Jingwei's actions? Is he truly innocent? Please leave your comments below. How powerful can the bond of family be? It's a force that drives people to face immense challenges, seek hope in dark times, and share joy in moments of happiness. In Taiwan, a man diagnosed with cancer dedicated the rest of his life to searching for his missing sister. His journey encountered numerous obstacles, but he never gave up. His story of perseverance spread and inspired many. But is his sister still alive? What's the story behind it all? On July 5, 1994, major news outlets in Taiwan posted the following message. Xiao Fan, come home quickly. Your brother's sick. I need you to come back to take care of Mom and your brother. The brother mentioned in the message was Huang Guoxi, lying weak in bed. Beside him was a sick and lonely mother. Anyone who heard the family's story felt sympathy, and the story spread across Taiwan. Huang Guoxi was a high school sophomore. His father had died in a car accident 7 years earlier, and his sister, Huang Fan, disappeared after going out with friends on the night of the previous Mid-Autumn Festival. He and his mother searched everywhere, even reported to the police. But after a year, there was still no news. Not long after that, Huang Guoxi found out he had terminal liver cancer. His single mother had worked hard to raise her 2 children, and despite previous hardships, they still found moments of joy. But now, in such circumstances, Huang Guoxi worried about who would take care of his mother after he was gone. So he bravely sought help from outside. According to statistics, until May 21, 1994, 1,116 missing students had been recorded in Taiwan, with hundreds more unaccounted for. Like Huang Fan, who disappeared mysteriously and remained unfound. The police had tried to search, but found no clues. Due to a lack of resources, they couldn't sustain the search, The police told Huang's family that she might have run away because the last time she was seen was at a flower shop across from the bus station. The possibility of abduction was low. With no other options, Huang Gouqi sought help from Lian Shengwu, a classmate whose father was a well-known politician. Fortunately, he helped his friend eagerly. Soon after, the message mentioned above appeared in major media outlets in Taiwan and drew attention. The pitiful Huang family received sympathy from many. Their phone was almost overwhelmed with calls. Some offered cancer treatment methods, and some even volunteered to donate their livers. Although grateful for their kindness, Mrs. Huang hoped everyone would focus on news about her missing daughter. Shortly thereafter, the news did bring a new signal, but cruelly, it wasn't news of finding her daughter, but a notification for Mrs. Huang to identify a dead body. The police from the Wenshan District Police Department in Taipei, upon reading this news, recognized the clothing description given by Mrs. Huang upon her missing daughter matched an unnamed dead body found a year earlier. Mrs. Huang immediately went to the police station for identification. When she saw the victim's belongings, she immediately collapsed and cried out loud, because everything was items that she had brought for her daughter. It was September 30th, exactly 1 year from the day Huang Fan went missing. On the previous Mid-Autumn Festival, Huang Fan and some classmates had arranged to go ice skating at the Wannian building in Taimon area. They usually met at around 10:30 at a flower shop on Chonghua Street, near the Taimon area, across from the bus station. But unexpectedly, it started raining, and they didn't have umbrellas. They left her at the flower shop and went to buy an umbrella. 5 minutes later, they returned to the flower shop and couldn't find Huang Fan anywhere. Subsequently, the group couldn't wait for Huang Fan anymore and thought she had something to do, so she left. Therefore, after leaving a note for her at the flower shop, everyone went ice skating. Since then, Huang Fan has not been seen again. On October 24th of the same year, a man named Wang Zitang drove to the cherry blossom forest in Mocha to walk his dog. This is a famous local attraction, with many people coming here for walks and to see flowers. When Wang Zitang entered a dense bamboo forest, his dog suddenly ran into a ravine and barked continuously. He moved forward to check and found something resembling a person lying in the ravine. Terrified, he quickly notified the police. The police arrived and found a dead woman lying face up, badly decomposed and unidentifiable from external injuries. She was wearing mature clothes and had a broken watch on her wrist with no documents found on her. After posting announcements, no one came to claim for a long time. With no other option, the police had to deal with the unidentified dead body by burying it in the cemetery. The remaining items were kept at the police station. Why didn't anyone think of Mrs. Huang's missing daughter then? It was because on that day, she was wearing her mother's clothes, so no one could have thought that this decomposed body was that of a young girl. Moreover, due to the damp and insect-infested mountainous area, the decomposition of the body accelerated, making the body look like it had been dead for 2 or 3 months instead of 2 or 3 weeks. All of this delayed the identification of the body. After identifying the body, the police opened the coffin and conducted a post-mortem examination. Although the body was badly decomposed and there were no clear external injuries, the forensic doctor found that the upper part of Huang Fan's body was severely decomposed, especially the neck area, concluding that this was her initial injury site. After the identification process, the police believed she'd been strangled to death. So, who was the culprit? To know all of this, we need to analyze step by step from the moment she left home to the day she disappeared. Earlier, I mentioned that Huang Fan's last appearance was at her classmate Chu's flower shop. Therefore, the police began investigating from this shop. The flower shop's owner is Chu Jialu. He stated that around half an hour before and after 11 a.m. that day, he was asleep in the flower shop and did not see Huang Fan. The flower shop does not have a surveillance system, so it cannot be determined what happened after Huang Fan arrived at the flower shop. Therefore, the police had to conduct an external investigation. Next to the flower shop is a construction site. The police had asked everyone at the construction site in detail. And at the same time, the entire construction site area, including the basement, was thoroughly searched, but nothing was found. Right in front of the flower shop is a bus station where many people come and go, and the day Huang Fan disappeared was also a holiday, so it was unlikely that she was abducted in such a bustling area. Moreover, Huang Fan had a simple relationship and did not use social media. The police still had to return to the flower shop because that was the last place that she appeared. After investigation, around 11 a.m. on the same day, Huang Fan called a classmate at the flower shop and invited her to go ice skating. This flower shop is located in a prime location on valuable land, with a small shop area about 6 to 7 square meters. With such a small shop owner Chu Jialu had no reason not to see her. Furthermore, Huang Fan was a classmate and close friend of his daughter, so they knew each other. He also appeared unusually calm. The police invited everyone he met or called on the day Huang Fan disappeared to the police station for investigation. Subsequently, the police found Chu Jialu's testimony increasingly suspicious. Let's take a look at his schedule that day. In the early morning, he drove to the hospital to deliver flowers, then went to the flower market to pick up wholesale orders. At around 10:40 a.m., he returned to the flower shop and rested inside until around 11 a.m. Then he went to a flag manufacturing facility on Chungsa Street to deliver goods. At 11:50 a.m., he returned to the flower shop and then went out for lunch. Around 12:10 p.m., he returned to the flower shop and stayed there until late at night. The police, according to his testimony, found the owner of the flag-making shop. This woman said that Chu Jialu did come to her shop for a while, but only for 2 to 3 minutes before leaving. His eldest daughter said that at noon she returned to the shop twice, but did not see him. His second daughter, also a classmate of Huang Fan, said she'd called the flower shop, but no one answered. Importantly, his eldest daughter told the police that her father did not return home all night. These testimonies did not match Chu Jialu's testimony. Therefore, he changed his statement and defended that the reason his daughter did not see him in the shop was because he was outside arranging and moving things. Regarding his journey that night, he said it was too long ago to remember clearly. However, he remembered clearly that he went to which flower market, what flowers he bought, and how much he paid, but he said nothing about going out all night. 26 years after the case, a prosecutor who had investigated the case received a letter from an anonymous woman. She said that at that time she was still a student and accidentally got to know Chu Jialu. Sometimes she even went to the flower shop to help him. According to her disclosure, Chu Jialu often went to the bus station and gave roses to female students waiting for the bus to chat. After getting to know them, he would invite them to his shop. Chu Jialu was particularly interested in female students, and some were treated specially, calling him Dad. Sometimes he would also take them out to eat at nearby restaurants. These things were later confirmed by the shops. The anonymous woman said that when she went to help at the flower shop, Chu Jialu hugged her from behind and said he wanted to teach her how to remove thorns from flowers. Fearing, this girl dared not resist, although she later reported the incident to the school. The school dismissed it as a minor issue. At the time, there was also a student working at the flower shop who had reported to the police that she was almost assaulted by Chu Jialu. At that time, Chu Jialu took her to the mountainous area on the pretext of teaching her how to drive. Initially, there were no signs of suspicion, but then he attacked her. The frightened woman tried to resist and finally escaped to a house on the mountain to seek help from the people. With the help of a tea grower, she escaped from him. In the process, Chu Jialu still pursued relentlessly until the woman saw a police car and intentionally sought out the police to talk to them before escaping. Where this woman said was only a 5-minute drive from where Huang Fan's body was abandoned. The police also found that he often came to this place to collect flowers. The police seemed to be getting closer to the truth, so they temporarily detained him. Meanwhile, the police also went to the scene to search for other witnesses. First, a neighbor saw a green car parked nearby, with a man pressing a girl down. He thought it was a couple in love, so he left. Although he did not see the girl's face, he remembered the man's face, and it looked very similar to Chu Jialu. Although it could not be confirmed later that Chu Jialu's car was the one he saw, the car's model and color matched. In addition, there were other witnesses, some of whom saw a man resembling Chu Jialu burning paper money nearby. Although there were many witnesses, no one saw the process of the attack. At this moment, a taxi driver named Zhang voluntarily came to the police and recounted the entire attack he'd witnessed while driving through that mountainous area. He said he saw a man pressing a girl by the road. Out of curiosity, he observed them and was finally scolded by the man. "What are you looking at?" Taxi driver Zhang said he had been haunted by this incident for a long time because of suspicion, and today, when he knew the girl was dead, he summoned all his courage to recount it. His testimony was crucial in implicating Chu Jialu. Furthermore, in the Chu family's car, some very small pieces of broken glass were found, and after examination, they showed the same material as Huang Fan's wristwatch strap. On November 21, 1994, the Criminal Investigation Bureau conducted another interrogation with Chu Jialu, who simply responded with either, "I don't know," or "I don't remember." He continued to deny any involvement in the case. In dialogue with witnesses, he even lashed out, claiming their testimonies were fabricated. Surely viewers would have formed their own conclusions by this point. But in reality, as Huang Fan's case was nearing conclusion and the prosecutor was preparing to indict, Chu Jialu suddenly, through his lawyer, proposed plea bargaining. He expressed willingness to admit to the charge of unintentional manslaughter, but refused to accept the death penalty, and refused to disclose the details of the crime. As long as the prosecutor agreed to these terms, he would plead guilty. However, the prosecutor refused and insisted on charging Chu Jialu with murder, requesting the death penalty. The prosecutor was confident that the evidence was sufficient, but in reality, when the case went to trial, this evidence was all insufficient to prove guilt. The final outcome surprised many. Although some witnesses had expressed responsibility for their statements, to ensure accuracy, they were subjected to lie detector tests. Surprisingly, all their test results came back negative. In such a situation, the credibility of the witnesses' testimonies became uncertain. Whom should the judge believe? A year had passed, and how much detail could they recall from that time? Even though a man and a woman were seen, could it be certain that they were Chu Jialu and Huang Fan? Ultimately, the testimonies of the witnesses did not hold up. Regarding the shard of glass found in Chu Xiaolu's car, initially in the interim ruling, it was stated as no difference. But in the final report, it stated, cannot confirm it matches the material of Huang Fan's wristwatch strap. This meant it could not be proven that Huang Fan had ever been in Chu Xiaolu's car. Therefore, it could not be proven that Chu Xiaolu had left the flower shop. Huang Fan died tragically in the Mukao Hill area, and it cannot be proven that it was caused by Chu Xiaolu. Many people remained interested and curious about this case, but there was still no final answer. Chu Xiaolu was acquitted, but he was accused of taking part-time students to the mountain area and restricting their freedom. Additionally, he falsified documents. In the end, he was sentenced to 3 years and 6 months in prison. This outcome left the victim's family, the investigating police, and the prosecutor all stunned. Upon leaving the court, Chu Xiaolu even made a victorious gesture in front of the media cameras. This case became one without a culprit. Headlines in the media read, "Huang Fan, who killed you?" And to this day, there is still no definitive answer. Huang Fan's older brother passed away shortly after hearing the verdict, and her mother had to move. She could not seek justice for her daughter and may never know the truth. She could only lament the injustice of fate and the cruelty of reality. A letter sent to the investigating police after 26 years, as mentioned above, brought a glimmer of hope. Many people have not forgotten this case and hope that one day the truth will be revealed. The case reflects a major loophole in Taiwan's legal system. The victim's family and friends continue to endure pain and yearn for justice. They live in dissatisfaction, unable to bring the culprit to light. We continue the mystery series with a horrific case from China. Everyone has heard the term serial killer. It's no stranger to anyone. It has appeared in mass media or in television and film works. When imagining this villain, surely everyone thinks of a tall, agile person with superior physical abilities, making it impossible for victims to escape his terrifying pursuit. However, today we introduce to you another case in which the serial killer is a man over 50 years old, paralyzed in both legs and moves with difficulty. He is a devout Buddhist, living in a small house reciting prayers under the dim altar day and night. In the eyes of the neighbors, he's considered a gentle and honest person. So, how did this demon disguise himself as a kind middle-aged man for many years without anyone detecting his terrifyingly cruel behavior? And who is he? All will be revealed in today's video. In July 2010, a girl went to the police station in Katlam City to report the disappearance of her mother. According to a statement, the missing woman is named Zhang Zhaiji, 49 years old, who has been a freelance worker for many years. However, because she hadn't heard from her mother for a long time, the daughter went to Katlam City to find her mother. Although she could not find her mother, some colleagues at the labor market where her mother went to look for work told her that they'd seen Zhang Zhaiji come home with a man to work as a maid. The disappearance of Zhang Zhaiji attracted the attention of many people. However, what's even more surprising is that just a few days later, the authorities received 5 more reports of disappearances, with names like Li Lingliang, Li Fuji, Shu Lin, Bi Ankun, and Meng Yangji. The common feature among the victims is that they are all freelancers, women aged 45 to 55. The police believe that all these disappearances have the same perpetrator. To identify the identity of the perpetrator, the authorities quickly launched an investigation plan. However, no clues were collected because all 6 victims had unstable jobs and their whereabouts were difficult to trace. These women are all middle-aged women, over 50 years old, and usually go to the labor market to find work. After finding a job, they gradually lost contact with their families. When investigating the information and reasons for the disappearance of these women, the police realized that all these nannies were directly sought and negotiated about the job by the homeowner while they were waiting at the labor market. Since there was no registration information about the homeowners, the investigation became difficult. Although the police deployed forces to the labor market and contacted other laborers in neighboring areas, they couldn't find any suspects and no specific clues. Meanwhile, the police continued to gather information from other laborers and relatives, friends, as well as former employees of the missing persons to learn more about their physical characteristics, clothing, and habits. The police tried to find valuable clues to solve the case and evaluate the possibility that the missing persons left home for other reasons or were kidnapped and fell into the hands of human traffickers or were killed. While the situation was still not promising, the police received important information from a relative of one of the victims. This person remembered that on the 12th of August, victim B. Ang-kun, after a period of work, returned to her hometown to give her family her earned salary. She said that she had just taken a job caring for an elderly person in a family. This man was disabled in his legs and had difficulty moving. She had to take care of the man about 6 feet tall, aged between 50 and 55. The family where she worked had a Buddhist altar. The homeowner was a kind man living near Dianan Street, and the house was at risk of being demolished due to the resettlement area. This information was very distinctive and could help narrow down the investigation. The investigative agency focused on finding the man living near Dianan Street, who matched the description in terms of age and leg disability. The investigation area was defined from Dianan Street, with a radius of 2 kilometers, including surrounding areas. The police mobilized more than 30 people to focus on investigating residential buildings near this road, paying special attention to neighborhoods slated for resettlement, and to search for a man with leg disabilities and a Buddhist altar at home. On August 17th, the police initially identified 2 men in the residential area near the railway line to the southeast, near Dilan Street, as potential suspects. After investigation, they gathered the following information. The first man was Mr. Cheng, 62 years old, who had an accident 6 years ago and had to move around with crutches in a wheelchair. He was a devout Buddhist and had a Buddhist altar at home, but he lived alone and had never hired a helper. He also had no wife or children, and he relied on his pension, being quite cheerful. He loved children, often buying candy for them, and they occasionally came to his house to play. This man often invited everyone and the children into his home in a relaxed manner, making it difficult to create a closed crime scene. There was nothing suspicious about monitoring this man. The second man, named Zhang Shuhong, 51 years old, who was divorced. He'd been paralyzed since childhood, so his movement was difficult, and he had to use his father's crutches. Zhang Shuhong's father was seriously ill, and he couldn't take care of him, so the family often had to hire helpers to take care of him. Economically, Zhang Shuhong didn't have much difficulty because his father was a retired senior engineer, and his pension was enough to cover living expenses for both father and son. However, the family often had to change helpers. Zhang Shuhong's house had a separate room for the Buddhist altar, with a large and meticulously arranged altar. The altar light was always on, day and night. When someone visited and asked about the previous helper, Zhang Shuhong would say that they'd quit and returned to the countryside because they couldn't stand his father's unstable temper. He often felt frustrated and uncomfortable seeing his father lying paralyzed for many years, which made his emotions unstable, and often threw objects within reach and cursed the helper terribly. This made the helper unable to endure, and they had to leave for the countryside. Each time this happened, he had difficulty finding a new helper for his father. Zhang Shuhong was quite gentle, but he lived quite lonely and rarely invited anyone to his house to play. After many efforts, the police determined that Zhang Shuhong lived in apartment number 3, first floor, right door of building 16, the railway residential area in southeast of Zhuap district, Catlam City, as the main suspect. The special team began to monitor Zhang Shuhong's family 24/7. However, behind his house was a vegetable garden and dense trees, so the windows were always closed and the curtains drawn down to avoid insects. Monitoring staff could only observe at night. Zhang Shuhong's house often had lights on all night, but he rarely left the house, and no one knew exactly how many people were in the house and whether Zhang Shuhong was at home or not. In the night, the scent of agar wood still often permeated, like a memory of a missing son. The team leader disguised himself as a water meter reader and accompanied another member of the police force pretending to be a community worker to go to Zhang Shuhong's house. As they entered the house, they immediately noticed an altar with a budded savar on it, with the scent of incense lingering in the air. After observing for a while, the two undercover police officers signaled to each other and arrested Zhang Shuhong along with his wife, named Li Yantu, 7 years younger than him. The arrest of this villain proceeded smoothly and effortlessly. During the search of Zhang Shuhong's house, they discovered tools such as kitchen knives, a hatchet, and a roll of nylon cord. These items were carefully seized for testing, and the results showed that they all contained DNA from the missing individuals. The police also found several dried bloodstains on the kitchen floor and gold jewelry belonging to women, such as earrings, bracelets, necklaces, and rings, hidden in a corner of the backyard. These pieces of jewelry were photographed and presented to the relatives of the victims for identification, and all were confirmed to be the missing individual's gold jewelry. With such evidence, Zhang Shuhong's defensive mindset was finally completely defeated on August 21st. According to Zhang Shuhong's confession, since 2009, he had consulted a fortune teller and was told that he would not live past 53 years old. During that time, Zhang Shuhong was facing severe diabetes and declining health. He had reached the age of 50 and blindly believed the fortune teller's words. Together with his wife Li Yantu, they decided to kill people to ensure his wife's livelihood after his death. Since May 2009, he and his wife had conspired to murder 7 people and rob more than 30,000 yuan, along with a quantity of the victim's gold jewelry. In addition to 6 female housekeepers, there was one 24-year-old man. But how could a disabled person like Zhang Shuhong kill a healthy young man only 24 years old? In 2009, to carry out his own murder and robbery plot, Zhang Shuhong placed advertisements about fortune-telling services with an address, with the intention of luring strangers to his home to attack and rob them. When a man named Li arrived, Zhang Shuhong led him into the prayer room and listened to him talk about career difficulties and a desire to know his future fate. Zhang Shuhong pretended to have knowledge of fortune-telling, and after a while of deception, he gave Li a glass of water. Just a few minutes later, he passed out from the heavily drugged water. Zhang Shuhong easily strangled him and killed the healthy young man, then dragged the body into the kitchen to proceed with disposal. However, after searching the man's pocket and clothes, only 20 yuan was found. Zhang Shuhong felt angry for having spent 240 yuan on the advertisement. He felt frustrated for taking such a risky gamble, only to end up losing in the end. He devised a new trick, sending a blackmail letter to the address of the previous man mentioned for fortune-telling. However, he received no response after sending the letter, but this setback did not deter him from his evil intentions. Zhang Shuhong continued to contemplate ways to murder and rob the next targets. He targeted people from rural areas coming to the city for job opportunities, such as housekeepers or caretakers for the elderly and young children. He approached them by inviting them to care for his bedridden father at home, selecting those who wore a lot of jewelry, such as earrings and necklaces. Zhang Shuhong often deceived them by introducing himself as a scholar researcher with the ability to fortune tell. With superstitious beliefs, the victims agreed to drink a magic water concoction prepared by Zhang Shuhong, but it was actually laced with sleeping pills. When the housekeepers fell unconscious, he used nylon cord to strangle them to death. Zhang Shuhong then calmly took a kitchen knife and proceeded to dismember the bodies into a cooking pot, then poured them into the sewer. The bone parts were placed in garbage bags and thrown into the Tonghua River. Despite having stolen a significant amount of money, Zhang Shuhong was still frugal and thrifty. He only ate rice and vegetables, refusing meat and fish. This serial killer has committed such heinous acts that are beyond reprehensible. In addition to the 6 victims who were harmed, the youngest victim, an 11-year-old girl, happened to be Zhang Shuhong's own daughter from his first wife. Why would this villain kill his own flesh and blood? To understand more about the life of this cruel and unique individual, we need to delve into his family's background. Zhang Shuhong's father was a senior engineer, and his mother was an excellent teacher. His siblings either lived abroad or were well off in China. In theory, Zhang Shuhong's upbringing was not bad, but he developed a twisted ego. Zhang Shuhong had been paralyzed since childhood, making mobility difficult. This often subjected him to bullying from his classmates. This paralysis condition caused severe physical weakness, but only affected the lower half of his body. He still had strong hands and a normal mind. Zhang Shuhong often avoided contact with others when he was young, perhaps due to his own insecurities and extreme solitary personality. In 1982, when Zhang Shuhong was 23 years old, he met Shu, a girl who was also paralyzed. They quickly got married after meeting each other, but from then on, tragedies began to unfold. After living together for 4 years, the couple still did not have a child. Shu went for a checkup, and the results showed that she was perfectly normal. The reason lay with Zhang Shuhong. While Shu did not feel too pressured about the issue concerning her husband, Zhang Shuhong was different. He not only wanted Shu to have a child, but also insisted that the child must have a blood relationship with him. This posed a challenge, and he had to find a solution. Zhang Shuhong came up with an idea of using his brother's sperm to have a child. Initially, both Shu and his brother strongly opposed this idea. But after Zhang Shuhong cried and begged, after a year, in 1987, Shu gave birth to a daughter named Zhang Tan. The fact that a seemingly normal person could carry out such unethical actions is truly astonishing. From this incident, it can be seen that Zhang Shuhong's psyche differs from that of a normal person, and his thoughts have been skewed for a long time. After his daughter was born, although he spoiled and cared for Zhang Tan deeply, the root of the child was always like a thorn in Zhang Shuhong's twisted psyche. He began to have extramarital affairs. Sometime later, Shu discovered that Zhang Shuhong had a woman outside their marriage. The two argued over this reason and divorced in 1991, when Zhang Tan was only 4 years old. Because Shu did not have a stable job and Zhang Shuhong's family was better off, she decided to leave her daughter with Zhang Shuhong's to raise. Surprisingly, despite Zhang Shuhong's love and indulgence towards Zhang Tan, the girl remained indifferent and distant from him. Zhang Tan did not show any affection towards her father. As Zhang Tan grew a little older, she enjoyed dancing and often walked to school instead of riding in her father's electric car. Shu said that until now, she still does not understand why her daughter treats Zhang Shuhong like this. Perhaps Zhang Tan was afraid of being teased by friends for having a disabled father. so she did not want Zhang Shuhong to appear at school. In July 1998, the dance teacher announced that Zhang Tan had not come to class. Shu contacted Zhang Shuhong to find out and received the answer that Zhang Tan was angry and went home to her mother. But Shu waited one more day, but still did not see her daughter return home. She searched everywhere and posted information into newspapers, but to no avail. Then, during the investigation, Zhang Shuhong confessed to killing his daughter. He felt resentment because his daughter was cold and did not reciprocate his love. In a fit of rage, he confessed to giving his daughter sleeping pills, but she only drank a small amount and did not completely lose consciousness. He stabbed her to death while she panicked and cried. Zhang Shuhong disposed of her body like the other victims and threw the bones in a plastic bag and into the Tunghua River. In prison, when asked about the reason for killing his daughter, Zhang Shuhong coldly replied, "After all, she's not my daughter." Both Zhang Shuhong and Li Yantu were sentenced to death for their barbaric actions. During interviews in prison, Zhang Shuhong confessed to reporters that the only place he remembered was not his childhood home, but the prison cell where he had been for 2 or 3 years. This demonstrates Zhang Shuhong's abnormal and insane psyche. On December 26, 2013, Zhang Shuhong was executed by firing squad for his cruel actions. He was 54 years old at the time, 1 year older than the prediction of a fortune teller before. Before heading to the execution, he made only one request: to meet his wife one last time. On the prison transport vehicle, Zhang Shuhong and Li Yandu had their final meeting. When talking about this man, Zhang Shuhong was not just superstitious, but could be called fanatical. He believed in the prophecy of a fortune teller that he would live to be 53 and then prepare for life with his second wife. However, he did not diligently work to earn an honest living, but instead sought ways to be cruel and insane, such as killing and robbing. It cannot be said that he struggled to make a living because of his disability, as killing could be easier than laboring for a living. However, it cannot be explained why he brutally slaughtered his own daughter just because he felt disgusted when she did not reciprocate his love. Although she was not his biological daughter, he raised and loved her since she was young. Those about to die often speak the truth because they know there is no more time for pretense, envy, or affection. However, even after facing the court, Zhang Shuhong still did not reveal the real reason why he killed people and his daughter. And this is today's case. Do you have any thoughts to share? Leave a comment below. Chinese Crimes will continue to analyze real cases in China in the next video. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and like the video to support us. For now, goodbye and see you soon.